Today I'm going to talk about something called anchoring, which is a term you may or may not have heard of. It's not what a pirate does before they go on land to try to gather up that booty. It is in fact a term that relates to behavioral science or behavioral economics. It is in fact a form of subtle psychological manipulation to change your impression of a product's value, typically by using a price. So the classic example in economic terms is when a sale happens. Let's say a product is listed for $100. That is your anchor point, and that causes you as the consumer to look at the sale price, which is maybe $70, and instead of thinking, is $100 a reasonable price for this product that I'm considering buying, you think, oh, 70 bucks, that's 30% off what it should be, what a great deal I'm getting, add to cart. Now anchoring has been around for quite some time. It's even been discussed by the father of modern marketing, Edward Bernays, but the effect is pretty much always the same. It uses your innate cognitive bias to establish an anchor point for the value of something to cause you then to consider buying something for a higher price than you might have otherwise. Of course, you might think to yourself, Paul, this obviously has never happened in the world of technology and computer parts before, but I'm here to warn you that yes, it has, and it's happening again.
Excellent!
Today's video is brought to you by the new FX series of cases and CPU coolers from Be Quiet, combining addressable RGB lighting with legendary build quality, top-tier performance, and near-silent operation. The Pure Base 500 FX can fit up to a 360mm all-in-one or tall air coolers while keeping things chilly thanks to airflow-optimized top and front panels. The Pure Loop 2 FX liquid cooler comes in 3 sizes and supports all modern mainstream CPUs, and the Pure Rock 2 FX air cooler can handle up to 150 watts TDP with style and ease. Be Quiet's FX series products are suitable for any build in need of a functional and tasteful RGB upgrade, so click the sponsor link in the video description for more. So the reason I decided to make this video is to spread some awareness, generally speaking, about what anchoring is and how it works, but also because the Ryzen 7000 series of processors is almost upon us. We're expecting them to launch in September, and it's not only a new line of CPUs from AMD, it's an entire new platform with AM5, as well as a new memory standard, DDR5, as well as some general updates across the board and the inclusion of stuff like PCI Express Gen 5. So naturally there's a lot of excitement around this launch, and as is typical leading up to something like this, there's been a lot of speculation about prices, and now we're seeing price leaks start to be reported, such as this article from Tom's Hardware talking about big price hikes over Ryzen 5000 series for Ryzen 7000. Now, a lot of these stories originate from a Twitter leaker known as momomo_US, who I have referenced before as well, who got some screen caps of price listings on PC Canada, which look pretty steep, like $435 for a 7600X, almost $800 for a 7900X, and $1,158 for the 7950X. These are evidently retail box prices that do not include a cooler. Here they are listed alongside of some of the other currently in stock and available Ryzen 5000 series CPUs. And they even have tray prices here for just an OEM CPU. Now it's important to note that these are Canadian dollar price listings, so Tom's was kind enough to convert these based on presumably the current conversion rate from CAD to US dollars, and that puts the 7600X at $340, the 7700X just shy of $500, 7900X at $625, and 7950X at $906. And these prices, if true, would definitely be markups from what the 5000 series launched at. And keep in mind that when the 5000 series launched, a lot of reviewers criticized AMD for finally taking advantage of their position sort of on top of the CPU game, having finally eclipsed Intel in a lot of ways, for doing the same thing that Intel often did, placing their products at a price premium without providing a lot of the discounts over time that a lot of people have come to expect from AMD. The prices seem even worse though when you compare them to current pricing. Remember that the Ryzen 5000 series launched in November of 2020, and prices have come down over time. The 5600X was $300 for quite some time. It can now be found for $200. The 5700X didn't even really exist for quite some time, but it's now down to $268. The 5900X was originally $550, can now be found for less than $400, and the 5950X was $800, and it's now down to about $546. That said, we're now talking about a new generation of CPUs that are presumably going to be faster with new technologies and a new platform, so perhaps AMD would be somewhat justified in raising the price a bit. But the speed with which these price leaks got picked up and then proliferated across many different media outlets talking about increased prices for Ryzen, and we also now have leaks about the motherboards. The X670E is going to be the flagship chipset motherboard, and we're hearing about a carbon Wi-Fi from MSI for over 550 euros, even an X670-P motherboard for over 350, And these prices again are significantly more expensive than what many of us would consider a reasonable price to spend on a motherboard. For my money right now, I would aim for around $200, maybe $200 to $300 for a good motherboard with a nice set of features. But even with current gen, it's been normal to see motherboards sell for $500 or more, and that in and of itself is another form of anchoring. The idea that a motherboard is actually worth $500, $600, $700 or more dollars, I'm sure is very, very appealing to the motherboard manufacturers themselves, but for anyone looking to build their own system and to stick to a budget, you're probably looking more towards the $200 range, and my expectation again would be that those motherboards exist, but they're not necessarily what the motherboard manufacturers are going to come out with right out of the gate. They want to show you their high-end boards that have much higher price tags, so you get caught up in the ooh-ah of a new platform before you start considering, wait, this is a $550 board they're trying to sell me. Fortunately though, the reports of high prices are somewhat mixed with reports that prices might be a little bit more reasonable, and a PC Gamer article here sort of covers both sides of the spectrum. They of course have the info from momomo_US, but they also contrast it with some other reports such as those from WCCF Tech, indicating for one a potential shift in the rumored launch date, 27th of September rather than the 15th, as well as this chart here indicating, among other things, a very optimistic price for the 7950X at $700 US, which would be actually $100 cheaper than the 5950X launched for, 7900X at $600, 7800X at $400, 7700X at $300, and oh gosh, wouldn't this be nice if the 7600X was actually $200. But the fact is, we actually don't know what the prices are or what they will be, and we won't know until AMD makes some sort of formal announcement or the products actually launch and go up for sale. But I wanted to ask the question, where do these leaked product prices come from? Obviously, someone at PC Canada had some reason to input the numbers here that appeared on their website, and it could very well be that these prices are based on some form of guidance from AMD. AMD said, here's what the retail prices are going to be. The retailer decided, here's how much of a markup we're going to put on those. They then created these product listings, or SKUs as they're often called, and then they were published live on their website for momomo_US to scoop up. By accident or not by accident, we really have no way of knowing. But I can say, based on personal experience, as well as this article from Tom's Hardware about when the RTX 3090 first launched, that listings on e-tail websites going live prior to the product actually being for sale is fairly common, and placeholder prices are also quite common. This article specifically references several RTX 3090s being listed at $5,000 or more, and I know from personal experience in my former work at Newegg that they would often put a placeholder price of $99,999.99, which is one, the maximum price that they can actually list a product for in their system, and two, a bit of a failsafe, just in case there's some shenanigans with their inventory management system and the product goes live on the website before it's supposed to. Chances are no one's actually going to place an order for a product for $100,000 just for shits and giggles. Of course, the prices that we're seeing in these leaks are not absurdly high. They are higher than I think a lot of people would like, but they are within a ballpark range of being somewhat reasonable. So this might have been information directly from AMD. It might have been just the product manager for CPUs at PC Canada making their best guess at what the prices might be, or it could even be a little bit of both and what you might call passive anchoring. The product manager listed these at prices that are higher than what they're going to be at retail, but AMD sees no need to correct that because it's doing the job of anchoring that price at a higher value in people's minds, which does all that anchoring stuff that I talked about at the beginning. Now, if you'd like to see an example of pre-launch price shenanigans happening in the past, I will point you towards Scott Herkelman's now infamous Jebaited tweet. Now, Scott is the SVP and GM of AMD Radeon, the graphics card side of things, but he still falls under the general umbrella of AMD, and per a follow-up interview after the incident took place, he said that there was a double bluff in place. AMD was poised to debut the Radeon RX 5000 series of graphics cards with the RX 5700 XT, which was going to cost $450 to $500 based on their early announcements. That caused NVIDIA to think, okay, we can launch our new RTX 2070 Super for $500, and then AMD came back and said, haha, gotcha, we were actually planning to launch this card for $400 the whole time. And that is just one example. And all this is to say, it's not just for consumer perception that prices might be changed or fudged prior to launch, but also because of competition. Now, I've already pointed out a few times that it would be very difficult to say whether or not these leaks are actually legitimate until we receive official guidance from AMD. But what might be the reasons that AMD might be comfortable actually launching these new chips at higher prices and dealing with the potential consumer blowback because of that? One would be to look back at the Ryzen 5000 series launch, which again was in November 2020, because those came out at significantly higher prices than their predecessors, and specifically they lacked a nice entry-level chip around the $200 price point. The cheapest Ryzen 5000 series chip, the 6-core 5600X, launched for $300, which was a $50 price premium over its predecessor, the 3600X. Likewise, the 5800X was $50 more at $450 versus $400 for the 3800X, and the same up the stack, $550 instead of $500 and $800 instead of $750. And again, despite negative feedback from reviewers and customers alike who was like, AMD, you're pulling an Intel here and pricing your products at a premium just because they're really good, AMD again seemed pretty comfortable sticking to those prices and not offering too much in the way of discounts along the road for a good year to year and a half until they finally launched some officially more reasonably priced versions of the chips with the 8-core 5700X at $300 and the 6-core 5600 at $200. Never mind the 5500 is a stupid chip that I don't recommend, but another reason for that could have been that Intel wasn't providing much competition either until the launch of Alder Lake in November of 2021. Of course, you might have also noticed that inflation has been a bit of a thing in 2022, so that could be another reason why AMD might be comfortable upping the prices, or at least the base prices of these new CPUs compared to what the 5000 series launched for. On the flip side of things, there might be some compelling reasons why AMD might want to keep those prices modest or reasonable, or even just the same as the 5000 series. One of those is consumer sentiment, and if you've been following the PC building game as long as I have, you probably realize that we're sort of at the tail end of a pretty rough spot for PC builders, and that's largely because of the prices of GPUs, but those prices have been coming down, and in fact, at least according to WCCF Tech here, they're going to continue falling further because there is so much outstanding inventory out there of GPUs of the current generation that still need to be sold before the next generation arrives. So I suppose operating in counter to that anchoring effect is the overall consumer sentiment that people want to be able to build computers for reasonable prices, kind of like they could a few years back, and they're not necessarily going to be willing to fork out extra money for the newest and best AMD CPUs if they're trying to get a good deal overall. It's also worth considering the existence of Alder Lake on the Intel side, which did not exist back when the 5000 series launched, and that bit of competition, as well as the knowledge that Alder Lake's successor, Raptor Lake, is also supposed to launch before the end of the year, might be enough for AMD to eschew going with higher price points at launch. Finally, AMD is also hopefully considering the fact that they are asking people for an all-in upgrade for anyone who's building a new system. With the new platform, AM5, they can no longer lean on the facts that existed when the 5000 series launched, which was there was potentially lots of people with 300 series and 400 series motherboards out there who could just drop in the 5000 series CPU as a replacement. People who are building on AM5 are going to need a new AM5 motherboard, they're going to need new DDR5 memory, and they're going to, of course, need a new CPU. So that is a significant upfront cost for anyone who's considering building on the new platform, so AMD might not want to push away those prospective new builders with high CPU prices. Although I suppose the one silver lining is that you can use your existing AM4 CPU cooler on the new AM5 CPUs, so that's at least something you can carry over. And so my advice for anyone who's really excited to build on the new platform and who has been watching all these new leaks like a hawk is to be patient just a little bit longer. AMD has just announced a Ryzen 7000 live stream. This is official from AMD. August 29th, 2022 at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. It will be a YouTube live premiere, so watch that, and I'm pretty confident they're going to be giving us at least a launch date, if not prices. And also keep in mind that you still have a reasonable amount of time to think all of this over. There is another rumor, again, this is a rumor not officially from AMD, is that the launch date, the actual for sale on shelves date date is going to be September 27th. And that is a pushback from previous rumors which said September 15th. Again, all of this is rumors, so it could all just be nonsense, but we'd like to at least talk about the rumors as long as we know that they are rumors and they might be not true. One reason that this might be true though is that it is the same day as Intel's 13th gen Raptor Lake unveil, and of course we know that the competing CPU manufacturers and GPU manufacturers always like to throw shade at each other, so AMD sort of overshadowing Intel's event just a little bit would be very much in line with stuff that both of these companies have done in the past. And so, in conclusion, if you come away from this video knowing anything, it is hopefully that anchoring is a thing, it does exist, it's used all the time to market stuff to you, not just tech products, but generally speaking anything that someone wants to sell to you, and staying aware of that can help keep yourself from being taken advantage of. Second would be to wait for official information from AMD in terms of the pricing and launch of these products before you go making any definite plans. And third would be to remember that long term, the prices of these CPUs is going to be determined not by what people talk about or predict prior to launch, but how these CPUs actually sell, their run rate, their general availability, and whether or not AMD can keep them in stock. And then of course how the competition stacks up, that's going to be coming from Intel. The initial AM5 CPUs are going to be compared to Alder Lake CPUs, and then probably a month or two after that, when the Raptor Lake CPUs launch, we'll see a new set of benchmarks that compare the newest CPUs from both AMD and Intel to each other. But that is all the time I have for this video, you guys. It's been a little bit of a talking head thing, but hopefully you've learned a little bit from it. If you guys have any questions or comments, please leave those in the comment section down below. Also, in the description, you can find a link to my store at paulshardware.net. I have a new shirt design over there that people have already been buying up since I debuted it in last week's tech news. Tons of other high quality merch as well, so be sure to check that out. If you enjoyed this video, hit the thumbs up button on your way out, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel, because that's a great way to be notified when I post new videos. Thanks again for watching this one, you guys, and we'll see you next time.